Someone corrects you in front of other people. You smile and say, "Yeah, I know." But hours later, you're still replaying the conversation in your head. Why did they say it like that? Who do they think they are? Maybe they were actually right, but something inside you still feels attacked. That's the strange psychology of ego. Because ego isn't simply arrogance, it's the part of your mind that protects the story you have about who you are. And whenever reality threatens that story, your mind can become defensive before you even realize it. 1. Your ego doesn't always protect the truth, it protects your self-image. Imagine you see yourself as an intelligent person, then someone points out a mistake you made. The mistake itself isn't the real problem. The problem is what the mistake seems to say about you. If I'm smart, how did I get this wrong? So instead of accepting the mistake, you start explaining. Maybe the circumstances were different. Maybe they misunderstood. Maybe they made an even bigger mistake. Notice what's happening. You're no longer defending the argument, you're defending your identity. That's why admitting you're wrong can feel strangely uncomfortable. You're not just changing an opinion, you're temporarily letting go of a version of yourself. 2. Criticism becomes painful when you turn behavior into identity. Someone says, "You could have handled that better." That's feedback about one situation, but your mind can transform it into, "I'm bad at everything." One mistake becomes, "I'm incompetent." One rejection becomes, "I'm not good enough." One disagreement becomes, "They don't respect me." The event is small. The meaning your ego attaches to it becomes enormous. And that's why two people can hear the exact same criticism while one learns from it and the other feels personally attacked. The difference isn't always the criticism, it's what the criticism threatens. 3. Your ego would rather win than learn. Think about the last serious argument you had. At some point, maybe you realized they're actually making a good point, but by then you've already defended yourself. You've explained your position, raised your voice, brought up something they did months ago. Now, admitting you're wrong feels impossible, so the goal quietly changes. You stop trying to understand, you start trying to win. And that's one of the ego's biggest traps. Because once being right becomes more important than discovering the truth, learning stops. You can be completely wrong and still walk away feeling like you won. 4. Comparison turns someone else's success into a threat. Someone your age gets promoted. Someone you know starts a successful business. Someone gets the attention you wanted. And suddenly, their success makes you uncomfortable. Why? They didn't take anything from you, but your ego may interpret their success as evidence that you're falling behind. So your mind protects itself. They got lucky. They probably had connections. It's not even that impressive. Maybe those things are true, but sometimes they're simply emotional defenses because it's easier to reduce someone else's achievement than to face the uncomfortable question, why does their success make me feel smaller? That's the question your ego doesn't want you to ask.
5. Rejection hurts more when it becomes a judgment about your worth. You apply for something, they reject you. You ask someone out, they say no. You share an idea, nobody seems interested. The healthy conclusion is, that didn't work. But ego can turn it into, I'm not wanted. And now you're not dealing with one rejection, you're questioning yourself. That's why emotional maturity isn't becoming someone who never feels rejected. It's learning to separate, they didn't choose this, from nobody could ever choose me. One describes an event, the other attacks your identity. 6. The more fragile your self-image is, the more defensive you may become. This is the uncomfortable part. Someone who constantly needs to prove they're intelligent may be terrified of looking stupid. Someone who needs constant admiration may struggle with how they feel about themselves without it. Someone who treats every disagreement as disrespect may depend heavily on external validation. A secure sense of self doesn't need to win every conversation. It can handle being questioned. It can handle being wrong. It can even handle being disliked. Because your identity isn't collapsing every time someone disagrees with you. 7. The real question isn't, why am I offended? It's, what exactly was threatened? Your opinion? Your pride? Your reputation? Your competence? Your sense of control? Or your fear of not being enough? That question creates space between what happened and how you react to it. And that space is powerful, because once you can observe your reaction instead of immediately obeying it, you have a choice. You can still disagree. You can still defend yourself. You can still set boundaries. But now you're responding from awareness, not from wounded pride. And that's the real goal. Not destroying your ego, not becoming passive, not letting people disrespect you. It's becoming secure enough that you don't have to protect your self-image every second. Because then criticism becomes information. Rejection becomes an experience, not an identity. Someone else's success stops feeling like your failure, and being wrong stops feeling like being worthless. You can simply say, maybe I was wrong, and keep going. Because the strongest person in the room isn't always the one who wins the argument. Sometimes it's the person who can hear, you're wrong, and calmly think, maybe, let me find out. That's not weakness. That's a mind secure enough to survive being wrong. And once your self-worth no longer depends on always being right, admired, chosen, or respected, very few things can control your emotions the way they used to.